Hi, welcome. I'm Rachel. I use they, them pronouns, and this is my second knitting chat YouTube video. Thanks so much for joining me. So this is going to follow the format of a typical YouTube knitting podcast, and I'm just going to come right out and say it that I do have beef with that term a little bit, just because this is a heavily visual medium and a podcast is an audio medium. So whatever. This is the terminology that our community has decided on. I decided that I am going to group all of my knitting related videos into one category. All of the videos that are me sitting in a chair talking to a camera about knitting that I'm working on. I'm just going to call those knitting chats. So this is number 2. That being said, I am going to follow that format. So I'll talk about what I'm wearing. I'm going to talk about my finished objects, my works in progress. I'm not going to talk about acquisitions very much, I don't think, unless it's particularly interesting, because I don't want to promote buying things as much as possible. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that part of my ethos when it comes to making. That being said, I do buy new yarn, but I just want to be cautious of promoting consumption of items that you don't necessarily need. But what I will be talking about is some other things that I've made, things I'm planning on making. And I am going to talk a little bit about a couple of sewing projects, because the past couple of weeks that has really just stolen my heart. And one non-fiber related craft that I've just remembered about that I'm going to go grab real quick. Got it. Had to get it while it was in my brain. Lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm reading, watching, listening to while I'm knitting, or just otherwise, that I think is interesting. I always like it when I'm watching other YouTube people talk about their other media interests. I think that a lot of the time, if you share sort of one sense of aesthetics with a person, there's a good chance that you're going to share some other aesthetic sensibilities with somebody. So I always like hearing about that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. This mug is 2 dolphins in love. I think they're in love. They're just jumping, but I think they're in love. Let's get started by talking about what I'm wearing. This is the Tip Top Tank by Maker Store, is I think their Ravelry username. And this is just a really simple tank top. This is made out of worsted weight yarn. So this is, oh my gosh, Lion Brand Touch of Linen. I think it's like 51.49 cotton linen. It's really nice. I like it a lot. I've made a couple of things out of it, and I really enjoy the way it feels against my skin. It does stretch a fair bit as I wear it, and especially if I don't put it in the dryer after I've washed it. It does stay quite stretched. I find that if I put it in the dryer, it shrinks back up just fine. And one thing that I would change about it, if I were to make it again, which I do think I actually will, because it also took very little yarn, is that I wanted quite a baggy fit. And this is, so what I did is I knit the strap just a little bit longer than the pattern said, just by about an inch, I think. But what happens is it does fall off of my shoulders, especially when the whole thing stretches. What I should have done, and what I will do next time, is extended the length of the armhole from this side, I think. But it's fine. It's not too bad, and I don't really mind it. In my work life, I teach yoga and Pilates as one of the numerous things I do for work. And so it is actually really useful for me to have these sort of baggy tank tops that I can just throw on over a sports bra. And I feel sort of put together and fashionable, but really I've just thrown a tank top on. So I love it. I'd make it again and I'd recommend it. It is not really a size inclusive pattern. I think it only goes up to like extra large, but it is free. So I think you could also, if you had the knowledge, fairly easily like hack it to make it your size. I don't think that that would be too much of an issue. It's like not an especially fitted garment. It's a boxy tank top. Okay, finished objects. I'm going to put my notes down so I can use both hands when I'm talking about my finished objects. I'm going to talk about, let's talk about this one first because it is the oldest. I finished it back, oh gosh, I don't remember. This is the Shirt of Fire and Ice by James N. Watts. I've test knit a few patterns for James. Actually, there's another one in my finished objects. I really like this one. This is one of his modular knits. So the whole thing is actually like you're knitting like this way and attaching these panels together to make this like offset stripe pattern. I really love it. I've seen some people do really cool scrappy versions. I saw Maker Bee did a really cool scrappy version. I like watching their channel. They have a really great sense of color, I think. Mine is pretty like, I'd say this is fairly subdued for a garment with a pattern like this. So for this one, I used Patton's Classic wool in a worsted weight. It's quite thick and rustic. I do like this yarn. I've used it for another sweater that I wear very often. However, it like right here, right on my chest, I am a little bit too sensitive to wear this like right next to skin. So this garment is waiting for its time to shine when it's cool enough that I can wear like some sort of tank top, or maybe like a turtleneck could be really cute under this, like a turtleneck with long sleeves for a layered look. I think that could be really nice. I do think I'll wear this quite a bit, like when it's its time. I would love to make this again. This was really fun to make. I really want to make this either in some kind of plant fiber so that I could actually wear it like as a short sleeve shirt, or in, I think James made his sample in Noro. I think that would be really, really nice too, especially if it's one of their higher like silk content yarns. Cute. And this didn't use that much yarn, I don't think. I still have leftovers of this. So I'm excited. This just came off the blocking mat just a couple days ago. So it's really and truly done. I had finished it in time for the test deadline, but by the time the test was done, it was like already too warm to be wearing something like this. So this is ready. She is done, ready to be worn. I'm so excited. Finally. So that is, I'll put that here. Next up, I'll do this other test knit, the more recently finished. So this is also a James & Watts test knit. I missed a couple of ends, but it is all nice and blocked. And this was such a dramatic before and after in blocking. This is the basic DK drop sleeve sweater, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's basic. It's a drop sleeve construction made out of DK yarn, and it's a sweater. So this is, as you can see, I did like kind of a stripey thing, and if I were to do this again, I wouldn't have done this pink stripe in the middle. I would have just kept this this block on the body. I would have just kept that fully green. But I thought I was going to use way more yarn than I ended up using. I don't know exactly what I did because I did gauge swatch, and I was on target with my gauge swatch, and I find that like I've knit quite a few of James's patterns by this point, and I find that I'm usually pretty spot on with his gauge. But for whatever reason, when I knit this, it was so tight. It like right up, and I went, oh gosh, I wasn't sure if this was going to fit properly. Like it went on my body, but when I tried it on, it was tighter than I usually like. The sleeves were like way up high, And I was like, oh, I guess it's like good. I guess it's fine. Like I finished the sweater in time for the test deadline and fill out the feedback form and whatever. But then when I blocked it quite aggressively, and it's perfect. So this is the size large, as is the other, the shirt of fire and ice. I find that I'm usually a large in James's patterns. That gives me like a little bit of positive ease, enough that it feels like drapey, but not so much that it feels like a huge object. And the main yarn that I used bloomed so nicely. This is, and I'm not sure if this is how you pronounce it, but this is BC Garn Semia Pura, which is an undyed yarn base. And so this is the natural wool color. And then this one that I used is like a marled one. So they have a range of undyed shades. I really liked it. I would absolutely use it again. I love the fabric that it makes. I think it's going to be a really beautiful sweater. And I would totally make another one out of maybe the cream yarn for like a main color. And then these solids, these brightly colored solids, are Tuka Wool Sock, which is an 80-20 woolen, I think it's like a biodegradable polyamide. And so the Tuka wool is like ever so slightly thicker than the Semia Pura, but it's fine. And the two textures are like ever so slightly different. Like you can tell that they're different yarns, but that really doesn't bother me. Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun sweater to bring some color into my winter wardrobe. I think it's going to be a really nice weight of sweater. I love a worsted weight sweater. It does get quite warm. Yeah, I'm excited. There's a couple of ends that I missed, but she's ready. She's blocked. And as soon as the weather is like permits this sort of thing, I'm going to wear it. Next step. This is fun. This is a fun one. This is just a triangle shawl made from Noro yarn. So I won a skein of Noro Tsubame in my Knitting Guild's like end of season charity auction. They hold one every May or June, whenever the season ends. This is my first year in the guild, but they take a break every summer. And so before the summer break, people bring in like spare skeins of yarn from their stash, and it gets auctioned off in a silent auction. And all of the proceeds from that auction go to a charity. I forget which one they donated to. I think it was Food for Kids. But they had a couple skeins of Noro, and they were hot items. I did kind of swoop in at the last moment to outbid somebody, but I had never used Noro before. I was determined, and this skein was actually my second choice of color. There was another one that was kind of more like candy colors, and it reminded me a lot of the colors that are around a lot in my home. But I actually quite like these. These are very like autumnal shades, and I really wanted to let the yarn speak to me. Having never used Noro before, I just really wanted to play with it. And I was about to go on a trip, so I cast on just a triangle shawl. And it's just a garter stitch triangle shawl it has a spine down the middle, so I guess I started up here and then increased at the center with this stockinette center spine. And I'm really excited to wear this. Again, hope this doesn't make crazy sounds on my mic. I haven't gotten a chance to wear this. If you watched my first video, I was very much complaining about the heat in that video. It's less hot now. It's definitely cooling down and getting into fall weather, but not quite time for really anything with wool content just yet. This is mostly silk. It's in my notes here, actually. Let's see. What is it? It is let's see, where is it? Okay, yeah. This is 50% silk, 25% wool, and then 25% nylon. So it's got a really lovely drape to it. It's very soft. And I think this will be so nice to wear with my next finished object, which is this hat. So this hat, I feel like I was being influenced by the colors in this while I was on vacation. I bought the yarn for this hat while I was on vacation. Oh, earlier this summer, I went on a trip to Newfoundland with my partner, which is where they're from. And so on that trip, I really wanted to go to as many different yarn stores as, time and budget would allow. And one of the yarn stores that I was quite keen on going to, I'm really glad we got the chance, was in Cowhead, Newfoundland, which is close to Grossmore Park and on the west coast of Newfoundland. And they do not have a website. You cannot buy yarn from them online, but you can go to their store, which I also think is only open seasonally. And it's in the owner's home. It was the owner's family home, I believe, that they then turned into like a fiber studio. So they dye wool there. I'm pretty sure they do some spinning there, all sorts of stuff. And I made this from a skein of their hand dyed yarn, hand dyed, naturally dyed yarn. So this is from onion skins, and the tag said that it was 100% Coopworth wool. I don't know anything about that kind of wool, but what I can tell you is this was so lanolin-y. I can still feel it like a little bit when I touch it. Way less so now that this has been blocked. A fair amount of that, I guess, washed out, but it's still like a little like almost tacky to the touch, not in an unpleasant way. I think this is going to be super warm and super waterproof. I don't think it'll be time to wear this anytime soon just yet. And this is like nothing special. This is a 2x2 ribbed hat. I don't think I followed a pattern. If I did, it was like a really quick glance at something to get the cast on number, because I don't normally knit with yarn that's this chunky. And I think I knit this in like a day, maybe two, after I came back from vacation. I got really travel sick on the way home, so I had to take a couple days to recover. So yeah, I think these will be really nice together. And I very satisfyingly bound this off, like either on the plane or in the airport on the way back. So these are I think of these like my vacation set. Although I do think this will be busted out pretty soon, and this is going to be put in a drawer for a little while. And then my last couple of finished objects they're sewing related. I have really been bitten by the sewing bug. My partner and I took a sewing class at our local sewing studio called Empire Makespace a couple weeks ago. If you're anywhere near Hamilton, I'd really recommend Empire. They're so great. And what I think is really cool about them is that they're really focused on sustainability and accessibility. So they use dead stock fabrics, which they also sell. And they also offer things like sew by the hour. So you can just go and like rent one of their sewing machines. They have private lessons. So you could like bring your sewing machine in there and privately have a lesson with somebody who works there, and they'll tell you exactly how to use your stuff. I love them. So my partner and I we both made cushion covers. This one was mine. And then I made a second cushion cover out of, I'm pretty sure this is a fabric remnant. So both of these are quilting cottons. We were recommended that quilting cottons are really great for beginners to work with because they're the perfect balance between, they have like a little bit of give, but not too much. You can't like really stretch it out. So I have been digging for quilting cotton remnants at the local fabric store any chance I get. So I bought like enough I cut out another cushion cover that I'll make eventually. And then I have a whole bunch of scraps that I can use for like patches and stuff. I need to buy another insert so that I can be using both. But yeah, I'm quite proud. This one I made on my own at home, just trying to, remember what the sewing teacher had taught us. We did leave with the pattern and instructions for making our own cutouts. But this one is significantly messier than this one, but that's okay. I think there's something charming about the little like mistakes and messes that we make, especially when we're learning a new craft. And, all of the mistakes are on the inside. From the outside, this just looks like a cushion. No one but me is going to see the inside of this thing. So I'm quite pleased. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of coffee before I talk about my works in progress. My coffee is almost done. That was the last of it. All right, we're caffeinated, we're good. So I only have a couple of whips that have like made active progress, which is fine. I've been doing what I wanted to do, which was focus a little bit and make like good progress on some things. So I'll talk about this one first because this was actually, I wasn't planning on working on this one too much. This is the flax sweater from Tin Can Knits. This is another free pattern. I love a free pattern, and this is quite size inclusive. This goes from like the range of tiny baby to big adult in sizes, which I do find a little overwhelming when you look at the PDF pattern. I have been using their app to follow this pattern so that I can only look at my own size. And this is made out of Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool in, I think it's called like brown heather or something. It's a lovely chocolate brown. Yeah, I think I was talking in my first video about this is just going to be like an everyday sweater that I don't have to be too precious about. And that's the goal. But the sort of flip side of this is that it's not that exciting to knit. So I had thought that this was going to be like a lower priority, but then I went to a craft night. I brought this to a craft night, and just because it's like a good thing to be working on while I'm chatting. And then I measured it and I realized that I was way closer to being done done the body of it rather than I thought I was. And then I got really fixated on just finishing the body. And I did. So now I just have collar and sleeves. And again, this is like a pretty, a fairly low to medium priority project. Like I'd really like to have this garment, but I'm not excited about the knitting process of it. I'm knitting these on a size 7, but I usually like to size up a little bit when I do sleeves because I find that my tension gets tighter on smaller circumference, like many do. Yeah, I don't know how much there is to say about this. It's just a regular brown sweater, but I do think it's going to be like really cute with, the different colors that I like to wear. I'm going to get to match all sorts of lovely accessories. You'll see this done eventually, I'm sure. I feel like this sweater is like a very similar vibe to the flax. There are so many ends that will get woven in, but this is all part of the process. So this is a test knit. This is a test knit for Stockinette Fitch. It's called the Sweaty Season Sweater. And in my last video, I was swatching for this in like a sport weight cotton and wool that I quickly realized that I was swatching in the round, and I actually didn't need to because this is knit flat in panels, and just it wasn't going to work out gauge wise. So I bit the bullet. I decided I'm just going to do straight wool. It's fine. So one of the samples that Stockinette Bitch did was made in Peer Gynt, which says it's a DK, but then when I was looking at the like weight per or yards per 50 grams, it seems closer to push closer to a worsted to me. And my local yarn store was having an end of summer sale on their entire stock. So I picked up some Cascade 220 and I really love it. I've actually never knit with Cascade 220 before. I'm hooked. I think it's great. I love the colors that are available. I love the depth of color that some of these skeins have. Ooh, particularly this yellow. I'll see if I can insert some B-roll of the sweater itself, just to show the like depth of color. So this is first you start by knitting this front panel, or this part of the front panel, and you're just like knitting like regular, and then you put the front panel stitches on hold. This is just an extra set of needles holding them, and then you pick up stitches along the side, and then you knit this side panel, and all of this will be the front. And there are so many ends because of the stripes, but I'm not weaving them in until I bind off the front panel and just like check to make sure it will fit me. I'm pretty sure it will, just like by eyeballing it. I'm going to grab a quick sip of water before I talk about my next whip. Another test knit. So these ones are high priority because they have due dates. This one is the highest priority. This one is due in a couple weeks, and I'm nearly done. I'm just finding I need to take frequent breaks from this one. Not any fault of the pattern. It's the yarn that I chose. So this is the Muscle Tank by Maya Deglon. And it's knit out of Lion Brand Kobu, which I'm not loving the experience of knitting with this yarn. I do like the fabric that it makes. The fabric feels really nice on my skin. It feels quite cool, which would be so nice on a hot summer's day, but it is like so not forgiving. It's so slippery. I dropped it a lot. Like I dropped and had to re-pick up a lot of stitches. Some of the stitches got stretched out when I did that. I'm doing this I-cord on the side, and there's a few stitches that are like a little stretched, which, I think I'm just going to go in with a sewing needle and like really gently just like boop the I-cord in. I don't know how well you can see what I'm doing, but like nudge it closer to the edge so that I don't have these stretched out stitches where I picked up. That's fine. I think like it's going to be a totally fine garment. I still like it, but I found that after each step of making this thing, I need to take a quick break before I move along. So I would knit the pattern again for sure. I think this kind of garment is really useful to me. I don't know if I would pick up this yarn again. This is again a test knit, so the pattern is not out yet, but it will be pretty soon. I think in the next couple of weeks. I forget the exact due date for this project, but September something, and it's September 1st today. So I better get cracking. I mean, I did this in like this I-cord in like an evening. So it won't take me very long to finish up the other I-cord on the neckline, the hem, and the other armhole. I'm knitting this a size larger than I generally would have chosen for myself. This test knit assigns sizes. So when I was filling out the application form, I was prompted to choose a size, and I was kind of between two based on the measurements that were given. So I chose two. I was given the larger one, and I don't think I would have chosen it. Like once I saw the pattern, I probably would have sized down. but I was assigned this, and actually I really like having this slightly larger size. The armhole is quite deep, and especially given the larger size, it's like really deep on me. But again, I don't mind. I'm always going to be wearing a sports bra under something like this. And so what I did is I knit it 1 inch shorter than the recommended length. So it's a little bit cropped and boxy. And I really like that for me. I think I'm really going to enjoy wearing this in the summer. Once I've had some distance from the experience of knitting with this yarn, I'm really going to like this. So once again, Muscle Tank by Maya Desclons. This is a test knit. This pattern is coming out soon though. And there's also something that I think is really cool about this pattern is that there's a fingering weight and a DK version. So I think I would knit a fingering weight version of this very happily. And I think it would make such a lovely fabric and a very wearable garment for me. And those are the only whips that or knitting whips that I've actively made progress on. I've really been trying to focus my attentions when it comes to my knitting projects. I've made like bits and bobs of progress on a couple of the things I talked about in my previous video, but like not enough to be worthwhile like showing it, you know? I've knit a couple rows on a pair of socks while I'm sitting at my desk. The thing that has really stolen my heart over the past few days is this hand sewing project. So this is a recently released, not quite a pattern, guidebook, and the Instagram algorithm fed this to me. And I was like, God damn it, Instagram algorithm, you're right, I do want this. So what this is, it's going to be a house jacket. This here is the back panel. This is what I've made the most progress on. And it's made out of as many upcycled materials as you can. So it'll be a quilted jacket, and the batting is made out of old bed sheets. So maybe this is a better example. So this is a front panel. This is just the batting. And I made this out of 3 layers of old bed linens. This actually purple one is my old duvet cover, but it was just so ratty and stained and full of holes. And then 2 layers of old bed sheets on the sleeve rather than 3 layers of batting. There's 2, just so that there's a little bit more, so that the sleeves don't get too chunky. And this is styled after a Japanese house jacket. So the artist who created this guidebook is a Canadian Mennonite textile artist, blanket maker, who is currently living in Japan with her Japanese family. And I just think that is like a really cool, beautiful cultural crossover. And in the guidebook, there's really beautiful commentary on like cultural respect and influence. I think it's really cool and really beautiful to use what is available to you in your everyday surroundings in making. I think I'll take another video. Maybe I'd really like to talk about mending and upcycling a little bit more. I'm not really feeling like I've gathered all of my thoughts in quite the way that I want to. I think it's really cool and beautiful and very honorable to use things that are around you, things that you already own, before going and buying something new. So I did buy some new fabric for this, that being said. So the inside is made out of old bed linens, and then the outside is going to be quilted. So most of this is made from upcycled materials, scrap fabrics, except for this green. This green is, I bought it new because I collected all my scrap materials, and then I realized that it was all just really busy and loud, and I wanted to make a garment that I would actually wear. So this is going to be, as the name implies, this is going to be a house jacket that I can throw on a chilly morning. maybe throw on before a dog walk. You know, maybe I'll wear it as outerwear regularly. I'm not certain yet exactly how it's gonna play a role in my life, but I do know that I'll wear something like this for sure, especially with this sort of, this isn't actually a solid, this has a light pattern to it, but this more grounding green. And I bought 2 meters of this fabric. This is just a quilting cotton, but I'm only using 1 in my jacket, and I'm gonna try to use the other meter in a different project. I have so much to say about this project and like the importance, I think, of upcycling and reusing things and being conscious of the resources that you are using. I'm not really feeling in the right headspace to talk about it right now, but lately I have been really into doing mending and upcycling and trying to refresh my wardrobe without buying new stuff. So I do think I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a future video. Maybe I'll, you know, compile all the things that I've mended in some way or another over the past couple months. And then the last thing I want to talk about isn't textile related at all. It's in a plastic garbage bag. But I went to a spoon making workshop the other day, and I carved a spoon. I carved this spoon. The reason that it's in a garbage bag is to keep the wood quite moist. So this is made out of unseasoned wood, which means that it is like the wood itself is quite freshly felled, and it retains a lot of its moisture content. It's called green wood. I don't know a ton about woodworking. This is the first woodworking I've ever done in my life. I took a workshop locally to me, someone I know who is a woodworker who's really into spoon carving as a hobby. And you know, this is pretty rough. I ran out of time, so I need to carve out the bowl of it a little bit more. It's pretty rough inside there, and I need to smooth down some of these edges. But by the end of the workshop, my hands were getting really tired, and I could feel like I was just digging in too much. I was tired, and I was like losing the finesse that you need to take these really smooth cuts. Because if you've done a good job, you're not even sanding this down. Your cuts are just so smooth that all you need to do is like buff it out a little bit and then rub in some like food safe wood polish. So this is polished with beeswax and jojoba oil. So when you're working with green wood, the reason it's in a plastic bag is once this dries out, the wood has now been seasoned, it becomes hard, and then you can't like carve it you can't carve it as efficiently, rather than the wood coming out in these beautiful like curly strips. It comes off more like sawdust. Yeah, this is my spoon. It smells really good right now. It smells like beeswax because I did give it a little polish just to hold the moisture in. And so I'm gonna go back to, there's a monthly craft night at the studio shop where I took this class, and we are free to use the knives and woodworking tools there. So I'm gonna finish it off there when my hands have had a little bit of a rest. I poked myself so many times. I think I poked myself the most out of anybody in that class, but you know, c'est la vie. I'm always a little bit clumsy when I get started on a new thing. And then at some point, my hands figure it out, my body figures it out, something clicks, and I feel a lot more finessed. But there were definitely a few little pokey slips of the knife. You are using very, very sharp knives when you do wood carving. Last up, what I've been reading, watching, listening to. I've been on an audiobook kick. I guess it's not really a kick. I just listened to two that I really liked in a row. The first one was Housemates by Emma Copley Eisenberg, which is a road trip novel, a group living situation novel, a queer novel. There's romance, there's intrigue, there's queer people of my very specific generation. So I always have fun with books like these because I feel like I can recognize the characters that the author was writing about, a very specific kind of like lefty queer person that I both love and love to make fun of a little bit. I have the synopsis here, which I didn't do for my other novel, but that's okay. When Leah volunteers to accompany Bernie on a road trip to her former professor's home in rural Pennsylvania to settle a complicated inheritance, what ensues is an unexpected road trip into the heart of America as the duo try to make sense of the times they are living in, falling in love with each other and rediscovering the power of making art along the way. It was just a really good book. It was heartwarming. It was fun to listen to. I really enjoyed it. I do think I would have preferred to like read the physical book to listening to the audiobook, but I could only get the audiobook through the library. And then the next one that I really enjoyed, and I'm going to be honest, part of the reason I chose this book is just because of the name. It was called The Rachel Incident. The main character of the book is named Rachel. The author is Caroline O'Donoghue, who has been on a couple of episodes of the podcast You're Wrong About that I really enjoy listening to. And so I already knew that I'd never read any of her books, but I did know that I enjoy the way that she expresses herself through words. And this was a really sweet and lovely book. I listened to it over like 2 days. It takes place in Ireland. Caroline O'Donoghue is Irish. Over a year in the main character's early 20s. And it's like kind of another novel where the author is exactly of my generation. There was a lot of stuff about being in your early 20s at that particular time. So, you know, late aughts, early teens, that I just recognized and had a lot of fun recognizing. And it was sweet, it was funny, a really enjoyable book. And the last thing I watched a couple days ago while I was working on my my jacket, and I'm forgetting the name of it now. I'll insert it somewhere. I didn't put it in my notes because I did these notes a couple of days before I watched this, but it was about a group of men in a prison who make quilts for children in foster care. And it was just really beautiful. It was really humanizing. It's about this restorative justice program. I very much don't believe in the prison system, and I think that we could use more media that humanizes people who do live within that system, because it's really easy to forget that they exist. And we shouldn't, because they're people too. So I think this is a really beautiful restorative justice program. I really loved it. It was like a 30-minute, little documentary on Netflix. I would recommend it. I'll put in the name, somewhere along here or like in the notes down below. I'm getting tired of talking, and I can tell. So I'm gonna sign it off here. I really enjoyed making this video. I enjoy chatting about things that I'm making. It always ends up being so much more than, I think it's gonna be. And I'm enjoying like documenting the things I'm making a little bit. So thanks so much for making it to the end. If you did, you're a real one. If you want to find me elsewhere online, it's Rachel Smiley on Instagram, just my name with an underscore on either end. I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, whatever, whenever you're watching this. Because I'm recording this on September 1st, I just want to say it. Happy Labor Day. The world was built on the backs of workers. So thanks so much for joining me once again, and I'll see you later. Bye.